Please, can we start? Thank you. Well, I welcome you all once again, the steering committee members, the funding organizations representatives, and the seed winners. And I think we can start our workshop for the Transformation to Sustainability program. It's a very dense program, as you can see, and we have a tight schedule, so I think we should start right away, and I leave the word to Heide for explaining how we work.
Okay, good, great, that's working. Morning, everybody. So we wanted to kick off by giving you a story about the Transformations to Sustainability program. Where does it come from? How does it fit into the current landscape of international global environmental change and sustainability research? Why did the ISSC do this? What are we expecting of this program? Where is it going? So that's the story I'm going to try and share with you. First of all, about the ISSC, very, very briefly. The ISSC is a membership-based organization. It is an independent international NGO, and it is currently the primary international body representing the social, behavioral, and economic sciences. So when we talk about social sciences at the ISSC, we do include behavioral and economic sciences. Our mission is to strengthen the social sciences to help solve global problems. And we have 4 sets of key activity areas. Every 3 years, we have a World Social Science Forum. Related to that, we produce every 3 years a World Social Science report. I hope most of you are familiar with the 2013 report on changing global environments, which you'll find copies of outside. We have a very exciting capacity building program for postdoc social scientists called our World Social Science Fellows Program, and then an enormous activity area is our international research programs and networking. Typically what we do here is take priority themes like poverty, human dimensions of global environmental change, and work with partner organizations to set up international programs, international networks. And in the field of global environmental change, our primary program here, which we co-sponsored for many years with ICSU, the International Council for Science, so the Natural Science Council, as well as the United Nations University, was the IHDP, the International Human Dimensions of Global Environmental Change program. And that was set up in 1991. Eventually, as the Human Dimensions program became the International Human Dimensions program in 1996. It was one of... There's the IHDP. It was one of several international global environmental change programs, all of which ICSU, the Natural Science Council, had been involved in setting up and co-sponsoring. The World Climate Research Program, Diversitas, the Biodiversity Program, and the International Geosphere Biosphere Program. And those, of course, came together in 2001 to create the Earth System Science Partnership. So that was the international programming landscape, and ISSC had a little part in that through our IHDP program. Then in 2009, following an ICSU General Assembly meeting, there was a decision to review this landscape, but primarily to say, what do the next 10 years of global environmental change at the global level need to do? What do we need to accomplish, and how best do we do this? And so ICSU launched what we call the Global Environmental Change Visioning process, and very soon brought the ISSC in, realizing that this needs to be done with the natural and social sciences working closely together. At the same time, 2009, a group of global environmental change funding organizations that had been meeting for years, for 30 years, had been meeting regularly, but exchanging information and never really funding anything together. And a subset of that group got together at a place called Belmont and launched what we know today as the Belmont Forum. This is an international forum of funding agencies that support global environmental change research. They got together to say we need to do multilateral funding. So we need to work together and find ways of funding international global change research. The Belmont Forum invited ICSU and ISSC to become members of the forum. So there was already a kind of strange alliance happening here. And in fact, that spurred what we today call the Science and Technology Alliance for Global Sustainability. What became clear at a meeting in October 2010 when ICSU, ISSC and the Belmont Forum met in Cape Town, we realized we were converging towards a similar position. We were saying that the global landscape we need a new partnership, a new alliance, and we need a single framework, a single substantive framework, but also a single architecture, an umbrella body that can really integrate the work that's been done by these various programs. And that has led to an initiative that we all know now as Future Earth, a global research platform for global sustainability research. And this is called the Science and Technology Alliance for Global Sustainability. It was started by ICSU, ISSC and the Belmont Forum in 2010. And what we effectively did is bring in the other co-sponsors of those 4 big global environmental change programs. United Nations University, UNESCO, the World Meteorological Organization, and UNEP. This is the alliance. These are the co-sponsors of Future Earth. Now, we don't have time today to go into great detail about what Future Earth is, but we have Frans Berghout with us, the director of the Interim Secretariat for Future Earth, and I will give him a chance at the end of my talk, if I can speed up, Frans, to just tell us a little bit more about Future Earth and also its importance. But I have stolen 1 or 2 of your slides, just to say what the objective of Future Earth is: to build and connect global knowledge, to intensify the impact of research, and find new ways of accelerating sustainable development. It has 3 key research themes, and it's just launching its first strategic research agenda. Frans will say something about that. What I want to point out, transformations towards sustainability is one of the 3 key themes. I also want to point out that the idea is not that this is where the social science box is and that this is where the natural science happens. These are all integrated themes. So, in all this story, from 2009, the visioning, the Belmont Forum, setting up the alliance, establishing Future Earth, what was the ISSC doing? We recognized from word go that this is massive for the international landscape and that we need to mobilize with the IHDP, which has now disappeared into Future Earth, that we needed to work on ensuring that once Future Earth is up and running, that there is a strong social science presence. And so with the support of Swedish CEDA, we were invited in 2011 to start designing a social science initiative around global environmental change. The original idea in our original discussions with CEDA was to do, what would we do for the social sciences in the area of climate change research? And following the Future Earth discussions, we kept saying we should push this towards global environmental change. Climate change is too restricted. And finally, we got onto this notion of this should be about transformations to sustainability, which for the social sciences is a much more inclusive conception of the problem area. It allows us to bring in issues of poverty, of inequality, etc. So we were designing our transformations to sustainability program at the same time as these changes, these architectural and substantive changes in global change research at the global level were happening. And as part of our design project, we published in 2012 a knowledge framework for the social sciences to say what is it that the social sciences uniquely bring to integrated global change research. And that's a report called the Transformative Cornerstones of Social Science Research. It is referred to in the World Social Science Report, which was our next big publication. And all of this really fed in to our thinking, our visioning and preparation for what we then launched in 2014. We got the excellent news from CEDA that this program actually will be funded for an initial period of 4 years, but with a longer term perspective. And we launched this program that you all know and have applied to for funding at the beginning of this year. So what is the knowledge gap here that we're addressing? We have very clearly said that, what we're trying to do here is everybody's talking about social transformation. Everything we know and read and conclude about global environmental change and the threats to our natural systems leads to the conclusion that we need profound processes of profound social change. So what are those? Transformation as complex processes of profound social change that are multidimensional, involve multiple actors, occur at different rates and scales, and can be deliberate or unplanned. It's a lot. It's complex. We need to have a program that focuses on this. This is the substantive thematic focus of our program. And so it raises questions like, these are just illustrative. What do we know about processes of change in particular places where social and environmental problems converge? What do we know about changes from individual, organizational, cultural, systemic levels? And how do we scale up? How do we link between those levels? How can these be realized in ways that are socially acceptable and that adequately anticipate future challenges? What are the novel visions from the social sciences that exist? Whose visions count? How do powerful interests influence unfolding trajectories of change? What are possible levers of change, and who are the potential change agents? What types of decision-making processes are required to foster deliberate democratic processes of transformation? And finally, what is the role of our science in these processes? These were the kinds of questions that we wanted to support research on. So the vision of the program is that if we answer these kinds of questions, that we will be able to put in place a global knowledge trust of robust knowledge about social transformation, a go-to place where people can find the relevant knowledge producers and holders on issues of social transformation. So the main objectives of the program then are increase the social science contributions that are relevant to fostering equitable, sustainable, transformative change, and increase the use of such knowledge. Very results-based management, you can measure this. But more generally, the added value of what we want to accomplish here and what we see this program being able to do is to mobilize a broader community of social scientists to become involved in solutions-oriented global change research, to help to fully integrate them into initiatives like Future Earth, to give them a strong support and strong basis, to make use, this is not only producing new knowledge, there's a lot of knowledge in the social sciences about transformation and about change, so the program is also designed to make use of the best existing social science knowledge and bring that to bear. But to support the development of new approaches to the co-design and co-production of knowledge, which is one of the key primary aims of Future Earth, is to not only foster integrated science across the disciplines and across the fields of science, but to also foster this notion of science working with society, so the co-design and co-production of knowledge. And this program seeks to, because it's solution-oriented, we want to actually make money available for researchers to use those kinds of approaches, to provide a basis, therefore, for building networks of mutual learning for transformative change in specific, concrete, social, ecological settings. There's also a lot of added value about how this program can help national or regional initiatives to leverage and play in the international environment. I'm not going to go into detail with that. We clearly are interested in using this program to infuse knowledge on social transformations into other Future Earth projects and other Belmont Forum initiative-funded projects on global change, and extend the collaboration between different types of funders. So we've got money from a donor aid agency. We are going to the national research funders to try and get more money for this program, and that creates interesting new alliances between the funders. So the program design, and I think most of you know this, so let me go through this quickly. The program has been designed to support what we call transformative knowledge networks. These are networks where we are hoping that people will pick up on interesting opportunities or social transformation needs that can be studied in concrete contexts of application. That means with with the lens of looking at a particular concrete sustainability challenge and how those are manifesting themselves in specific concrete social ecological settings. We don't want people to do study and research on social transformation in abstract. It's about rooting it in concrete contexts and doing solutions-orientated research in these networks, multi-stakeholder, co-design networks of mutual learning, where knowledge can be co-designed, produced, and disseminated. We have retained a little bit of program funding to ensure that on an annual basis we can bring the networks together in a transformative knowledge workshop. And that transformative knowledge workshop should serve, in the first place, to start building this global knowledge trust. So we need to learn from the networks. What are we learning about processes of social transformation in different settings, in relation to different challenges? What works, what doesn't work? But also, what is it to start implementing new approaches to how we produce knowledge? What are we learning about so-called the doing of transformative science? And this is the first workshop. This is where we want to start building that global knowledge trust. So your contributions here creates a kind of basis for us to run this series of workshops. What are the TKNs, the Transformative Knowledge Networks? A lot of you, particularly the grantees, will know this from the call, the program description. Let me run through them quickly. As I've said, main theme here, the main topic is social transformation, opportunities or needs that have been co-designed in concrete contexts of application. That's a key criteria. We're then talking about transnational collaboration, where we want to support teams from at least 3 countries, and those should include at least 1 low or middle income country. These are program criteria, which you will see in the call that comes out later in the year, and that you should be familiar with. Integrated research. The interesting thing about this program is that we want to encourage interdisciplinarity. We want to encourage social scientists to work with natural scientists and engineers and humanities scholars, but we want the research to be framed and led by social scientists. And those social scientists can come not only from university or academia, but from other sectors, from NGO, from the private sector. But it's a social science framed and led initiative. Solutions-oriented research, as I've said, we really are emphasizing the iterative co-design, co-production, co-dissemination of knowledge. This is an important criteria for us, science working with society, leading to the building of local mutual networks of learning. In terms of capacity building, you will appreciate that with money from a donor aid agency, this is a critical criteria. So what we have said is there are 2 important aspects of this. On the one hand, these networks will need to be led or co-led by researchers from a low or middle income country. So there can be, this can be a dual leadership. If so, it needs to include somebody from a low middle income country. If there's 1 PI, low middle income country based PI. And we really want to see that networks demonstrate benefit for early career social scientists. Finally, we want people, because we are asking them to experiment and to use new approaches to knowledge production, this co-design, co-production stuff, we want people to learn from that, to be reflexive about what works. This is really about tapping in on the processes and keeping, almost a sort of an ethnography of the knowledge production processes, so that when you come to the annual meetings, you can share your experiences and knowledge, and we can really start understanding whether transdisciplinarity actually does lead to better or more effective solutions, or whether it is a current hype. I think we're investing a lot in saying transdisciplinarity is critical, but does it actually lead to solutions-oriented research? All right, so need to move on, and this is not... Okay, so the work plan. Where are we at? You've been involved in the seed funding round, which was funded by ISSC, so we are trying to get additional resources for this program, and in discussion with the funders from the Belmont Forum, we agreed the seed funding, ISSC will fund with the money we've got from CEDA. You all know that we were overwhelmed, swamped, frightened, delighted by the fact that we got more than 500 proposals. ISSC is not a funding organization, so this was challenging for us. But we're delighted that instead of the original 30 that we said we could afford, some other agencies, including the Economic Social Research Council from the UK, the National Research Foundation of South Africa, a Swedish organization that coordinates environmental change research in Sweden, CES, and the Dutch Research Council came in with some additional support because they were so impressed with the seed grants. So 38 of you in the room. And the next step was let's have a quick look at the breakdown. What is interesting here is that if you see who the PIs are of those seed grants, you see a typical kind of breakdown, which is if you do even what we know are biased bibliometric analysis, it shows you where the capacity, social science capacity to do global environmental change essentially lies, and it is in Europe and the US. So the profile of where the grantees are based is quite skewed towards the north. However, what is interesting, and of course the program has been designed to redress this kind of distribution. So if you look at, if you look at what are the regions, what are the partner regions and countries that you guys, the seed grantees, now want to go and develop networks with, then you see a different distribution. And I think the better illustration of that is the following diagram, which shows you the red dots show you where the PIs of the seed grants are based, and the yellow dots show you where those seed grant projects are intended to build partnerships. And if you look at that distribution, this program in the seed funding phase only is touching 76 countries across the world, all regions of the world. Now, we're at the workshop. Susie will tell you more about the objectives of the workshop, but what I want to emphasize is that you are here. This workshop is not about getting you to understand how to apply for a transformative knowledge network. I will introduce you to the program team, and you can ask them about technical details in the breaks. This workshop is about you contributing. This is the first step towards building our global knowledge trust. And so this is a substantive workshop in its own right, and we call on you to see the workshop in that light and help us and hopefully become involved in future work around building that knowledge trust. We will then, in December this year, launch our first call for the full transformative knowledge networks. And remember, we've said with the money we have from CEDA, we probably can fund 3 networks originally. I will come back, though, to the prospects for future calls and how we're doing on that. What I want to point out to is, with great thanks to the Japanese JST and the South African NRF, these are both members of the Belmont Forum who have committed to working with us and to investing in this program in this very first round. And our awards, so the call will go out in December, the deadline will be somewhere end of March, and we hope to make funding decisions by mid-2015. Okay. Our next Transformative Knowledge Workshop then will be held in another site of important transformation in Durban, South Africa, which is also where we are holding our 2015 World Social Science Forum on the relevant topic of transforming global relations for a just world. We hope some of you will be there. I think we're going to have to get another one of these. Okay, so what does the future of this program look like? Funding 3 transformative knowledge networks is not so exciting for some of you. I realize that when they're 38 in the room. So what we've been doing is we've always said to CEDA, with the money from CEDA, we want to leverage support from other kinds of donors. And we've been working really hard on this, and it's a tough job. What we've been focusing on is going to the Belmont Forum, the national funders who fund global change research, and trying to persuade them to come on board. Quite honestly, they've been a little bit cautious, because we're coming with a well-designed program that doesn't really fit always their rules and regulations, but they're fascinated. To cut a long story short, at the last meeting of the Belmont Forum, which was a few weeks ago in Beijing, several agencies, the Germans, the Japanese, the South Africans, the UK, the NSF and the US and others, they all said, we're interested. But we want to see you run this first call. And then we want to come on board in 2016. What was stunning at that meeting is that the European Commission stood up and said, we really like this program. This ticks a number of very strategic boxes that we've been battling with. It puts the social sciences in the lead. It brings them into a solution space. It links with low and middle income countries, so it links with a development agenda. And we want to commit 3 million euros as an incentive fund for national funding agencies to double that money. We are now in negotiations with the European Commission and a group of national funders at the EU level to bring all of this together. I'm not going to go into the details of this because it takes us into European Commission's language. The point is that in 2016, we expect that there will be a minimum of 9 million euros available in what we call an ERANET, which is a European Commission term for bringing funders together to do multilateral funding. The fantastic news is that the European Commission is not saying that we must adjust our program principles towards theirs. They are willing, they like the principles of the TKN and they're willing to run with that. It's going to be, this is going to be the ISSC's big challenge, is to ensure that this happens, so that in 2016 there will be a new and a much bigger call for transformative knowledge networks. The Commission has also committed to convening together with the ISSC a very high-level donor conference early next year, so that we can bring the colleagues, the counterparts of CEDA, the DFIDs, the NORADs, the DANIDAs, the IDRCs, the USAIDs on board. So we are optimistic about growing this program and providing better opportunities for the research community that has shown such enthusiasm and interest for this program. So don't despair. More opportunities on their way, and we also, of course, want to, in relation to Future Earth, work on funding eventually from foundations and the private sector. Okay, now this has stopped functioning. Susie, could you just give it a hit there? I think I'm nearly done. And next one. That's it, I'm done. So, so now if I may take, I know I'm just on time, Susie. I want to do two more things. First of all, I want to ask the ISSC program team, and actually all my colleagues at the ISSC, to stand up so that you can identify them. If you have technical, practical questions about the program, the call, please talk to them. Also about your seed funding issues. Because what we would like to do is focus this workshop is about talking about social transformation. It's not about really about preparing you for the call. So I'm going to quickly introduce you. You've got Vivi Stavro, Mathieu Denis, Connie Bellany, Charles Ebikeme, Sarah Moore, who is the main program manager, and we've also got our advisor, our program advisor, Susie Moser. And myself, of course. Please feel free at any point in time to come and talk to us about, you know, what is the call going to entail, deadlines, criteria, etc. We'll be happy to give you that information. Then we can focus our discussions on the interesting topic of social transformation. Finally, Franz, can you do it in 2 minutes? Tell us a little bit about why this is important to Future Earth. I should have said, of course, that as one of the members of the alliance that set up Future Earth, this is ISSC's main contribution to Future Earth, and so this program also carries the Future Earth label. Franz, over to you.
It's very skillful, Sarah. Right. Okay, thank you very much. So I'm Franz Burkhardt. I'm the Interim Director of Future Earth, and I work at King's College. I should perhaps also say that I'm a social scientist. And in a way, it's possible to see Future Earth, its emergence, as a response to a critique from the science technology studies community about global change research, particularly this stress on the need to think very carefully about transdisciplinarity. So we have a whole rhetoric, as Heide has already unveiled, on the co-creation and co-production of knowledge. Now, this is a very complicated thing to do, of course, as you all know. And I have to say that we're battling with it ourselves in the committees to try and make sense of what it should be. We're writing something called an engagement white paper right now, which tries to set out a kind of manifesto for the way in which we think a future Earth should be handling the whole area of transdisciplinarity. So very quickly, Future Earth, as Heide has already said, is really aiming to do two things. One is to do more connected science about global change and sustainability, and that means not only connecting the natural sciences, but of course also connecting between the social sciences and then between the natural and social sciences and humanities, and indeed engineering should play a role in that too. So it's this very ambitious aim to create a platform where this kind of connectivity, where it is functional to the problem or to finding solutions, needs to take place. And the second aim of Future Earth is really around transdisciplinarity, this whole agenda of the co-production of knowledge. Heide also showed you that one of the three core themes of Future Earth is to do with transformations to sustainability. This is a new thing, and I have to say that this is the theme that is the thinnest. It's the one that needs filling up, and I think this program is very much about beginning in the social sciences anyway to fill up that theme within Future Earth, and therefore you're important pioneers, I think, in our program. I think the last thing I want to say is that this is really, Future Earth is really an opportunity for social science, and it's important that social scientists step up and grab the opportunity. Social science, seen from the rest of science, is often viewed as insular, somewhat esoteric, and always concerned with problematizing. And that is seen by our partners in the rest of science, but also often by decision makers as frustrating. I mean, I remember being involved in discussions with eminent scientists at the Royal Society in London already in the early 90s, asking us how they should talk to social scientists because they needed them on board. We had the International Human Dimensions Program that did some of that work. Within Future Earth, social science plays a leading role. I mean, the fact that the first director is a social scientist is already a kind of indication of that. But there's still a long way to go, I think, for us to have productive dialogues. And I think part of the responsibility also lies with us as social scientists to reach out and to try to, become part of a transformation, actually, in the way we produce knowledge in the universities, but in a way that's also actionable. I mean, something that is a difficult word and a complex word and a problematic word, of course, but something that we really have to start doing now, I think. So that's what I wanted to say, a call to arms. We must step up, and I think this program is, and everything that follows from it, this ocean of money that Heide is promising us, which is fantastic. And I'm working on as well, of course, with the Belmont Forum, Andrew. So Andrew's here listening carefully to this. So I really look forward to the coming days, and I'm happy to speak to you. Thanks.